You're listening to The Rough Draft, a not-so-average personal development podcast for purpose-driven women ready to rewrite their story. It's a show about evolution, changing narratives, and rewriting our life's rough drafts. I interview some of the world's top female leaders in business, energetics, love, relationships, money, and personal power about their humble beginnings and shifts that got them here. I'm your host, Sabrina Greer, writer, speaker, book publisher, serial entrepreneur, and mentor to women in life and business. Let's rewrite. Hello, and welcome back to the Rough Draft podcast. I am so excited for my guest today. I have my dear friend and forever author about to launch. Today is what, book number 3, 4, 5, 10? I don't know. I've lost track. So amazing. Anyway, I have Leisse Wilcox here with me, and I'm going to do a little introduction and then we're going to dive right in. Leisse Wilcox doesn't just coach leaders, she is one. As Chief People Officer of a leading infrastructure business with over 20 years of experience speaking and coaching executives around the world, Leisse transforms leadership by helping you become the leader everyone wants to work with. Known as the secret weapon of the C-suite and the Maria Kondo of your unconscious, she helps ambitious leaders cut through the mental clutter, lead with courage, and create workplaces people are excited to be part of. An expert in behavioral change, resilience, and high-performance leadership, and certified leadership, executive, and organizational development coach, Leisse is an award-winning speaker, twice bestselling author, soon to be 3 times, and Forbes contributor, trusted by brands like TD, AGF, and Aviva, championing confident communication, resilience, and human-centered leadership that drives results and culture at the same time. When she's not building the future of work or coaching leaders to own the room, she's road tripping for tacos, listening to Taylor Swift with her 3 daughters, or binge watching HBO with her dog. I love it. And it's so awesome. Teddy, right? Is the dog?
Teddy.
He's so sweet. Anyway, welcome, Leisse. I'm so excited to have you here today. You know, as mentioned, you're a long-term client and friend. You know, you've been there since the very beginning of my business. And here we are, book number 3. It's just so exciting. So exciting. And I know how much it's evolved, the process of evolution. You know, it was one thing and that's another thing, and it changes and it grows. And, you know, that's why career authors like yourself, you know, we don't just stop at one book. We just keep going because everything changes. So I want to talk a little bit about that. You know, your book is called The Courage Code. So let's talk about courage, because it seems like an appropriate thing to bring up. So why don't you tell me, what is courage and how does one embrace it? And, you know, what would you recommend as an expert on this topic?
Well, thank you. What I have found in like 10 years of really studying people, 10 years of overtly studying people, is that usually we say something like, oh, wow, you're so brave, or you are so courageous. And we mean it as a compliment. But a lot of the time, the person receiving it is like, I had no choice. Like, I didn't put myself in a situation that required bravery because I wanted to, or I didn't put myself in a situation that required me to be courageous because I wanted to. It was like, I had no choice. I guess technically I had a choice. I could have like curled up into a ball, given up, died, done a number of different destructive things, or I could have kept putting one foot in front of the other and like really made this courageous decision. And so that is something that has always really interested me, is that the people who tend to be the most courageous kind of hate it about themselves, because they tend to be the people who've experienced the most adversity and therefore resilience. But it doesn't always feel like a badge of honor. And so then on the flip side, you have people who will say, certainly I know I've received this feedback in my life, and as have a lot of my clients, man, I wish I had just 10% of your courage. I wish I had 10% of your confidence. And it's like, it doesn't belong to a select group of people. Like, it's available for anyone to choose. And so part of the Courage Code, just quick cover reveal here, part of the Courage Code is embrace, like, what would it be like if we could dissect what it really means to be courageous and give people kind of a manual as to how they really start to change the way they communicate in not only their workplace or in their leadership, but also in their relationships and home lives.
So important. And I love that you mentioned that, because I work with high achieving women. I work with leaders all the time in this,
Mhm.
in the publishing world, obviously. And I find that comes up a lot, right? This
Yep.
imposter syndrome and feeling like people telling them one thing and them feeling another thing. Like, you're so
Mhm.
brave. No, I'm not. You're so
Mhm.
confident. No, I'm not. Right. So there's this
Yeah.
discrepancy between what the outer world sees and the
Mhm.
inner world that's happening. And I know your work, you talk a lot about emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
and I'd love to sort of touch on that, because I think it's so important as we move forward that this be the epicenter of
Mhm.
growth, of personal growth. We need to be emotionally intelligent. This is what needs
Mhm.
to be taught in the school system and raising future leaders. So do you want to touch on that?
Mhm. Robots are basically taking over the world. And we have, and I don't, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's that we've found so many more ways to outsource. This might be a bad thing. Our thinking and our creating. The jury's still out on that one. But because of AI, we are able to automate so much stuff. And the world of work as we have known it is going to be radically, dramatically different 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. Like akin to the Industrial Revolution, this is changing the way that we work. And basically the only thing that we can't outsource, we can't give away or delegate out to AI is emotional intelligence. Yes, we can develop bots to be more emotionally intelligent, but at the core of it, we can't automate our relationships. So if we want to think about future proofing ourselves in this like rapidly changing world, we have to return. We're not ever going to outrun the machines. We have to return to what makes us the most quintessentially human. And really dialing into our emotional intelligence is a shortcut to get there. So, what does that mean? It means that we're looking at self awareness, self regulation, motivation, having empathy, and wait for it, because this is what's a big one that's missing, social skills. And those are kind of the ways, with like the 5 ways we can break down what emotional intelligence really is, or those kind of 5 components of emotional intelligence. And then if we want to, as I say, stop trying to outrun AI and just really tune into what makes us more human, that's the way we do it. Increase our self awareness, self regulation, which is the ability to both know who we are, our strengths and weaknesses, and also be able to regulate our own emotions. Motivation, really have the drive or ambition to achieve a specific goal or result, even through setbacks. Empathy, to really be able to put ourselves in the shoes of others and see it from a different vantage point instead of constantly leading with ego, being able to lead with curiosity. And lastly, having the social skills, which COVID all but destroyed, to be able to build and maintain positive relationships with others through healthy and effective communication.
Would you say, with, I know you're an expert on this topic, you contribute to a lot of different publications and you speak about this a lot. I've been able to witness some of your talks, and amazing. Would you say the relationship piece, I know you said COVID sort of
Mhm.
destroyed that, but what are your thoughts on AI and that piece? Because
Mm,
I think, with, it's hard to even tell what's real when it comes
mhm,
to photographs or words or posts or
mhm,
articles or like what books even. I've had
mhm.
so many manuscripts submitted that are completely written by AI, and
Awesome.
it misses the person. So what would you say about AI and relationships, and how is that affecting it, and what can we do about it?
I'm going to use myself as an example and I'm going to back up a little bit. So I really think that I think COVID did a number on so many people that we don't even fully appreciate. Like now it feels like it was forever ago, but I don't think we fully appreciate what happened. So I used to have a thriving social life, like thriving. I was busy all the time or hanging out with people all the time, either hosting or being hosted. And, I went through a divorce, and that really changed the nature of my social relationships in a significant way, and that was followed promptly by COVID, when we had to, really stop that kind of socialization. So it was like two double whammies for me. But then the third is like right after COVID, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So going through my like year of cancer, when I had no white blood cells, I was like, oh my God, everybody stay away from me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm not talking to anybody. And all of a sudden, I trained myself to be the perfect introvert. And so now like, I love speaking, obviously, but if I go and do a keynote, like I'm tired for 2 days after. And like I have to be so intentional with my energy. My kids dance, they play volleyball. So if I'm like psyching myself to go to a dance competition or a volleyball tournament where I'm going to have to be talking to other people, it requires like so much amping up. So I think we have, and I know I'm not alone in that. Like I think we have that kind of pillar of people whose lifestyles are really affected during those years where we just spent so much time in isolation. And then, we've also been dealing with, forget about AI, like we've been dealing with like this relationship between us and our phone, where we individualized our own experience, our own content, our own data, our own information, our own news, our own arts and culture, what have you, right? Like if you grew up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, actually probably even 80s and maybe 90s, you pretty much had the same like pop cultural experience as everybody else. Like you watched the same shows, you listened to the same few radio stations, maybe you burned a couple CDs or like made some mixtapes for each other, but it was pretty unifying in terms of what we experienced. And now like we are just in like constant curation mode. So we have that pillar, and then we have AI, which has become super, like, I think coaching is going to be an obsolete industry very quickly because it's so easy to train your AI to become a relational support for you. And even to, you can, in the style of Esther Perel, like, tell me what I need to know about my marriage going forward, right? Like, I think that we're really shrinking the need, quote unquote, for relationships with other people. You have 3 kids, I have 3 kids. Everybody listening is probably at least familiar with some kind of kid. They don't usually they don't usually converse in dialogue. They will send like a vlog. The other person receives that vlog, watches it, then records their own vlog and sends it back. Like we're all three of these things, from the isolation to the increased focus of individualization, and now this backup of like, I don't really need to engage in real time with anybody. I kind of think we're screwed. So, like, sorry, not sorry. We have to be incredibly intentional that we don't lose what is arguably the only thing that makes us human, in how to have relationships with other people.
Yeah. It's so true. The Snapchat generation, right? Where
I
I
know.
see my kid looking at his phone and he makes this funny face all the time. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, it's my Snapchat face. Like, what? I'm sorry, you're what? What is a Snapchat face? Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I totally agree with what you say about the coaching industry and so many industries,
I
photography,
know.
as an
Gone.
example, copywriting,
Branding.
what else, even therapy, maybe at
I
some
know.
point. It's hard to even grasp things because 20 years ago, as you said, or in the 80s when I was a kid watching like Saved by the Bell after school, like
I know.
with all the commercials, and
Yeah.
riding my bike until the streetlights came on without even a
Mhm.
watch on, or certainly not like a cell phone, and all of this. It's so interesting to think like in 30 years from then this would be the way it is. So like in
I
30
know.
years from now, who's to even say like there's
I
going to
know.
be people that are walking around that are actual robots, or it's hard to really
Yeah.
like grasp, right? So I agree that we have to pay attention
Mhm.
and keep our humanity, because it really, it's feeling like a sci-fi movie more and
Mhm.
more every day. And so I love that this book touches on the way it's going, because we can't fight it,
Mhm. Yeah.
but staying human at the same time, and really just like anchoring in that emotional intelligence. Because even if we have robots walking around and,
Mhm.
flying cars and who knows, like living in a Jetsons episode or, some sort of futuristic thing, it's like the one thing that you'll never be able to duplicate is humanness, right? It's,
Yeah.
it's emotions, it's relationships, it's love, it's compassion, it's
Yeah.
the feelings, the things that we have. So I love
Shared
that.
experiences.
Exactly. And I love that
Yeah.
you talk about that. Can you share a little bit as a mom of three,
Mhm.
with tweens and teens moving
Mhm.
into that rapid time of
Mhm.
life? What would you say to our listeners who are raising kids in this area? Like, how do we develop future leaders? How do
Mm.
we embed communication skills and courage
Mhm.
into the future of, even if you're not a leader or
Mhm.
identify as a leader in business or in your career or your occupation, at home, leadership is also important. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with this. So um, I basically have a theory that family dinner will save the world. I really genuinely believe that the act of sitting down over meals, again, like what is more human than that, than sitting down to break bread with somebody or share a bowl of pasta, what have you? Just be together eating as a family. And what it does is it creates this mini boardroom in disguise that people don't even know that they're at, like a mini boardroom in disguise, right? But you're talking about intergenerational communication, being able to have the confidence to speak up, use your voice, disagree, learning social rules like when to interrupt politely, how to interrupt politely, and above all, not interrupting in general. Like there's so much social skill stuff that happens, asking beyond surface level questions that nobody really cares about, like even how are you, but what'd you learn at school? What are you guys working on? In terms of like, what are you reading? What did you like about that? What's actually happening at school? Kids aren't forthcoming about that until they're in those moments of quiet. And when you're in those moments around the family table, that's when stuff gets revealed. In our own home, like it can range from basically speaking only in the lyrics of Hamilton to one another and being like super goofy about it. Or conversations of like, yeah, there was a kid at school who got bested for vaping, and there was another kid at school who found fentanyl in their joint. It's like, what fresh hell are we living in? As a parent, you need to be so involved and engaged in your kids' lives that doing the thing where we just delegate, like, oh, well, they just have their screens, they just love their screens. Like, I know people are going to push back against this, but your children will not learn social skills anywhere else. They are not learning it at school. My daughter's in 10th grade and her textbook has been replaced by a PDF. Like they don't have books anymore. So the only place that they're getting these skills is at home. So instead of like, I think everybody wants their kid to have some kind of competitive advantage. It's not coding. It's not like, oh, he just spends so much time playing video games. He's like, his skills are so great. Okay, cool. You could like anybody can learn that. What they can't learn anywhere else, it is actually the differentiator, and that's backed up by Harvard Business Review, Jamie Dimon, is the ability to actually dial down on their emotional intelligence and have those interpersonal communication skills. So, to every other parent, and I feel it because it is a challenge, it's a challenge to be the one who's swimming against the stream and being like, no, you can't have your phone 24/7. Like, this is an inappropriate time to be on your phone. Having, dare I say, the courage to be the one who's dissenting and like doing it differently is the parent who's showing up and giving their kids access to real life events and communicating about it and talking about how they feel and like really processing it in real time. That's the competitive advantage we want our kids to have because nobody else is getting
Oof, yes, I feel it too. And it's interesting, we feel like we need to preface these conversations with an apology because there are going to be people who push back, who don't like what we're saying. And I invite those people who feel that way just to look at their situation, right? It's not a judgment. Nobody's ridiculing. It's not about that. But really, I had at one point my youngest, who is turning 9, it was almost like an iPad addiction at one point. He was just sort of looking at it all the time, and I was justifying it. Oh, well, he's playing with his friends online. He doesn't have a phone. It's an iPad, and he's doing this and he's doing that. But I noticed a real switch in mood. So now we have boundaries. It's like a certain amount of time. There's the right time, as you said, the correct time. And that's not at the dinner table. That's not first thing in the morning. We don't do any screens before school. We have like a set time that is iPad time. Not only do they look forward to it and are excited about it because it's something that they do enjoy and it's something that they want, but they go outside because they're bored.
Yeah.
The number of times I hear in a day, I'm bored. I'm like, great. That's perfect. That's what I was looking for. Like, we live in such an overstimulated society where we feel like our kids have to be busy 24/7. And if they're not busy, we fill that time with something that's like busying. And I just think it's a beautiful thing to be bored, right? How many times did we fill our boredom with imagination as children before social media existed, before YouTube, before video games and personal devices and screens and all this stuff, right? It's like, that's where imagination comes in. Go build a fort, go for a walk, go explore, go see something or do something. And, I arguably there'll be people who come at me for that comment too. Well, easy for you to say, you live somewhere where that's possible. And, we live in a city and we live here, and, but there's alternatives, I think, to everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And those slower activities, and if my kids ever hear this, they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe you are talking about this. Like, just chill out. But those slower activities, that's what actually builds a healthy level of dopamine, which is what we want. Like, dopamine is such a reward chemical. It feels really good. We want more of it, right? Same thing we get from cocaine. Like, there's a reason we want more of it, because it feels really good. iPads, iPhones, any video game, it's all built with huge levels of dopamine built in. Like, you get a reward, you get a reward, so you're actually changing your neurochemistry by getting a dopamine addiction because you're used to being stimulated all the time. Well, that bar is very, very, it's like heroin. It's like trying to chase that high over and over again. It wears out. So you need something that's faster, louder, brighter, it's insanity versus having the slower activities where you do have to like go through the process of being uncomfortable, being bored, feeling like you have nothing to do, that you actually get that spark of creativity. And then, you build the fire, or you use a coloring book, like play solitaire, whatever it is, do a craft. All of those things still build dopamine, but in a much more regulated level. So again, bringing it back to humans versus AI, the only way we really stay human is to have a pretty healthy balance. Not the only way, but a contributing factor to how we stay human is not indulge in this crazy level of dopamine addiction, and bring it back to activities that give us like that natural ebb and flow instead of needing constant stimulation all the time.
Yeah. And also helping our kids discern between what's real and what's not, right? They're children.
Yes.
They see, what was it the other day? It was this AI thing that somebody saw on YouTube as a commercial, and it was, like a dinosaur or something. And it was AI clearly, but young children don't know the difference. They're like, oh, dinosaurs are back. And then they're stating this as fact. And then their facts are wonky. And, it's very hard. So really helping them understand. And I said this in my TED talk in relation to beauty ideals and, young girls looking at these AI filters and apps and things going, how do I compare? Well, you don't, because
you don't.
It's not only is it unrealistic, it's actually impossible.
It's not real. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not real. So really helping our children discern between what is real and what is not, what is healthy and what is not, allowing them to contribute to their own emotional development by giving them tools and treating them like they're people and not burdens or nuisances that need to be entertained 99% of the time. Yeah.
Well, and that's for me where it comes back to, leadership. We're not just leading at work, we're leading at home. And that takes a lot of courage to be able to lead in that way and to be able to actually communicate with your children in a healthy way and have the confidence to lead authentically. And what are your own values and ideals versus just doing what feels like it's generationally accepted.
Yeah. No, I think it's so important. Well, I'm so excited for your book to be in the
Me
world.
too.
I know it actually started, and hopefully it's okay for me to say, it actually started as a dinner table conversation that was going to be within the title of the book. And that was really what it was based around. And we pivoted slightly and moved directions into this space. But ultimately, it is a book about communication, courage, confidence, all of those things. Is there anything you want to share with our listeners and readers as you go by the book today that around this topic?
Yeah, I've tried to make it really simple. So it's shorter than either of my other books, but it's really it's short and it's practical. So it's very story led, data driven, and it's all backed up by neuroscience. So you could literally pick up any chapter and kind of drop in and apply it, or you could sit down for an hour and a half and read it cover to cover. There's a book club prompt section at the back, so you can like bring it to a group. And it's more than anything, it's it's kind of funny, but it's also like really practical. Practical, if only I could speak. It's practical. It's actionable. It's very boots on the ground. It's not ivory tower. It's like things that we've all lived, and I think that makes it pretty accessible.
Yeah, I completely agree. And your first book was your memoir, and it's also funny and amazing and powerful, but it's the first book. It's the one. So if you want to go and read more of Leisse's work, I highly recommend To Call Myself Beloved. It's also available. But today we're launching the Courage Code, and I couldn't be more excited. So go get your copy today. And if you're listening to this much later, still go get your copy today.
We won't say no.
we will not say no. But it's just such an incredible, important piece of work, timely, and as Leisse said, accessible, which I think is very important. It's for everybody. There's nobody that can't pick this up and benefit something from it. Where can we find you and what's next? Yes.
Well, I was going to say, and fun fact about the cover is that she's now 13, she was 12 at the time, did the artwork. So she did the digital artwork, which I just love it so much. And yes, I paid her to do that. But you can find me at leissewilcox.com, LeissesseWilcox. I write actively on LinkedIn and more behind the scenes stuff on Instagram, both at Leisse Wilcox. And I'm always doing a keynote somewhere. And so you can check in with either of those places to find out those locations too.
And I'll link everything so you can find Leisse in the show notes, her social media and everything else. Is there one nugget of wisdom that you'd like to leave with our readers before we say goodbye?
I just think that courage is so much more available to each of us than we know. And I'm really proud of this book because I think it breaks it down to be to really truly make it your own and be able to show up differently. 7 communication strategies to change the way we work, live, and lead. I think it's just super relevant for everything we're all going through right now.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you, listener, for tuning in and for getting your copy of the Courage Code.